Google Search Console, best practices for use in 2025. Why Google Search Console belongs in your 2025 revenue stack. If you're leading B2B growth in 2025, organic search probably feels less predictable than it did a few years ago. AI overviews, rising zero-click behavior, and faster SERP shifts mean you can't set SEO and forget it anymore. At the same time, sales teams are being asked to create more pipeline with tighter territories and higher meeting targets. That's exactly why Google Search Console, GSC, matters more, not less. When roughly 62% of B2B website traffic still comes from organic search, and 57% of B2B marketers say organic delivers the best ROI, GSC is effectively your visibility and demand intent monitor. If revenue teams aren't looking at it, they're guessing about one of their biggest levers. In this guide, we're treating GSC as shared go-to-market intelligence, not an SEO-only tool. We'll show how to configure it correctly, translate query and page data into pipeline decisions, and use it to tighten alignment between inbound content and outbound messaging. The goal is practical: more high-intent clicks, more qualified conversations, and fewer surprises. Search has changed, but buyer intent hasn't. The harsh reality is that a growing share of searches never become website visits. Around 60% of Google searches in the US and EU reportedly result in 0 clicks, which means informational content can perform in impressions while producing little traffic. That's not a reason to quit SEO. It's a reason to get more precise about where clicks still happen and where they convert. The buyer behavior underneath is still search-led. About 71% of B2B buyers start with a generic search query, so early funnel visibility shapes who even enters your consideration set. In other words, GSC isn't just a marketing dashboard, it's market research that reveals which problems are becoming urgent, which terms are rising, and which pages are earning real demand. The biggest mistake we see is tracking traffic as the goal instead of tracking the right traffic as the goal. With AI SERPs changing click distribution, your teams need a tighter view of impressions, rankings, CTR, and landing page outcomes. That's why GSC belongs alongside your CRM, your SDR workflow, and your revenue reporting cadence. Think of GSC as a demand intent map, not an SEO report. Most teams underuse GSC because they look at it like a technical tool instead of a revenue tool. The performance report tells you what prospects are literally typing into Google, which pages Google trusts for those searches, and whether your snippet is compelling enough to earn the click. That's the same information your SDRs need to mirror in Outbound, and the same information your product marketers need to refine positioning. We recommend structuring your analysis around 3 questions. What are we visible for? Where are we losing clicks? And which pages create downstream conversions? This is where you stop thinking in single keywords and start thinking in query clusters that map to ICP pain, use cases, and buying stages. When you do that, GSC becomes the connective tissue between content strategy and meeting production. A common mistake is mixing branded and non-branded queries and calling it growth. Branded growth can reflect outbound, events, partnerships, and awareness, valuable but not the same as net new demand capture. Non-branded visibility is where you expand the top of funnel and create new opportunities for your sales agency motion, your SDR agency workflow, and your content engine to work together. Set up Search Console for clean, revenue-grade data. Start with configuration that removes blind spots. Use a domain property whenever possible so you capture all subdomains and protocols, especially if you have separate areas like docs, resources, or an app subdomain. In B2B, documentation often becomes the quiet entry point for evaluators, and missing that data leads to bad content and conversion decisions. Next, connect GSC to GA4 and define conversions that sales actually cares about: demo requests, contact submissions, trial starts, and high-intent micro-conversions like pricing views followed by a form submit. You won't get perfect query-to-revenue attribution, but you can consistently measure which landing pages from search are producing the right actions. That bridge is what lets RevOps talk about SEO in the same language as pipeline. Finally, treat access like a go-to-market requirement, not a marketing preference. If 75% of sites receiving organic traffic from Google use GSC and about 45% of marketers access it weekly, locking it to a single admin is an avoidable handicap. Give read access to demand gen, RevOps, and sales leadership. Then run a quarterly walkthrough so your outsourced sales team or internal SDRs know what insights to use. Search Console is the closest thing you have to a live feed of what your market cares about. If you're not turning it into messaging, offers, and meetings, you're wasting the signal. Win almost there keywords before you publish more content. In 2025, rankings still matter sharply where clicks exist. Average CTR for the number 1 organic result is around 39.8%, while number 2 is about 18.7%, and number 3 is roughly 10.2%. So moving up even one spot can materially change lead flow. The fastest path to that lift is usually not a new article. It's improving pages that are already close to winning. Inside GSC, focus on non-branded queries with high impressions and average positions between 4 and 15. Then look for low CTR relative to position, which often indicates the snippet doesn't match intent or doesn't communicate a clear benefit. Quick wins include rewriting titles for clarity, tightening meta descriptions to the buyer's language, and restructuring the first screen of the page so the answer and next step are obvious. The mistake to avoid is optimizing for clicks that won't convert. With search now delivering a large portion of trackable visits through a mix of organic and paid, and 53% coming from organic alone in many datasets, the goal isn't more sessions. It's more of the sessions that become demos, trials, and sales conversations, especially on solution pages, vertical pages, and comparison pages that naturally align with pay-per-appointment lead generation and outbound follow-up motions. Turn organic insights into outbound messaging that books meetings. GSC won't push query data directly into your CRM, but you can still connect the dots. Use GA4 to capture the landing page, map that to form submissions with hidden fields, and pass the source landing page context into HubSpot or Salesforce. Over time, you'll see which content themes reliably produce SQLs, not just clicks. This is where we see the biggest compounding effect, using the same language prospects search for in your outbound. At SalesHive, we take query clusters, pain points, alternative terms, versus comparisons, and industry-specific phrasing, and translate them into cold email agency messaging, calling talk tracks, and LinkedIn outreach services that feel immediately relevant. That relevance is the difference between a delete and a reply, especially when your cold calling services are targeting accounts already showing intent through search behavior. The common operational failure is keeping inbound and outbound in separate worlds. If marketing learns that B2B appointment setting service or sales development agency queries are surging, but SDRs keep pitching generic value props, you're leaving demand on the table. A weekly marketing review and a monthly sales leadership review of GSC trends keeps your outbound sales agency narrative aligned with what the market is actively asking for. Protect visibility with technical hygiene that prioritizes revenue pages. When organic traffic is a primary demand channel, technical issues are not SEO chores. Their pipeline risk. Indexing problems, accidental no-index tags, canonical mistakes, and broken redirects can quietly remove your highest intent pages from eligibility. In B2B, the pages you can least afford to lose are pricing, demo, core solutions, and your top converting comparison pages. Use GSC's indexing and sitemaps views to keep your crawl and index coverage clean. Submit sitemaps that reflect what you actually want ranking, and avoid bloating them with legacy campaigns or low-value pages that dilute crawl focus. Then use page experience and core web vitals as conversion protection. If a page is slow or unstable, your rankings might hold, but your form completion rate often won't. The biggest mistake here is treating all errors equally and burning dev cycles on low-impact URLs. Start from revenue and work backward. Fix issues on sales-critical pages first, measure impact on conversions and meetings, and only then expand to long-tail blog and resource URLs. That prioritization is especially important if you're running sales outsourcing or an outsourced B2B sales motion and need your inbound flow to stay steady week to week. What best practices look like in a zero-click AI overview world? AI overviews have changed the SERP economics, and CTR erosion is real. One study found a 32% drop in CTR for the top organic result after AI overviews scaled, falling from 28% to 19%. That means you can be doing everything right from a ranking perspective and still see fewer clicks, which is why you must monitor GSC CTR trends as closely as positions. The playbook shift is to double down on queries with commercial intent and build pages that deserve the click. In practice, that means clearer titles, tighter meta descriptions, stronger above-the-fold messaging, and offers that match the buyer's stage. For example, demo for high intent, calculator/templates for mid-funnel, newsletter/webinar for early. When you combine that with a focused outbound follow-up, you turn fewer clicks into more meetings. Your next step is to operationalize this like a revenue team, not a one-time optimization project. Run weekly anomaly checks in GSC, do monthly intent cluster reviews mapped to pipeline, and build a quarterly roadmap that ties content updates to SDR themes. If you don't have the internal bandwidth, pairing SEO with a specialized B2B sales agency like SalesHive can help you convert the intent you've earned into booked conversations through a coordinated cold calling agency and SDR agency execution.